Hello and welcome to Backstage at Bug. This is Firebug's new music interview podcast where we're speaking to Leicester-based musicians, all things songwriting, performing and music. I am your host, Courtney Askey, and today I'm speaking to Echolocation. Echolocation have been playing for about 2 decades now, and they've been in various guises, and members have been in previous bands such as Bucker and Chomsky. This is a really nice episode for me to film because this is actually my dad's band. My dad is Andy, the bass player, and obviously I've known his band my entire life. So it was really fun to get together with them and speak about music, because I think it's something that often you kind of just don't get round to, and that was something that they all also said. They were like, I was kind of interested in doing this just to see what everyone else would say, because it's not something when you've been together for this long that you sit down and actually talk about. So it was a kind of enlightening day for everyone. I hope you enjoy this episode. Please do give us some comments and likes if you're watching on YouTube. Share with your friends, that would be great. I'm really enjoying seeing what everyone's been saying about it so far, and thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy this episode. The next episode will be released on Monday the 31st of July with Mouse Teeth, Nancy Dawkins, and I hope you really love this episode. Thank you. All right, let's go. You started in the early 2000s. You couldn't remember what year it was though.
2004.
Yeah.
Actually, it's 2005, wasn't it? It was like the...
Well, it evolved from a different band, didn't it?
Yeah, we were in Boca and the singer went off and we got Pete in.
Pete came to... So it goes back even further than that, doesn't it, really? Because Pete, Dan and I were in a band called Chomsky in the 90s, so we sort of knew each other. Pete came to one of our gigs and asked if he could do a bit of stand-up poetry at the gig, and we said yeah, and then that was it, wasn't it?
We met in the laundrette, didn't we, Pete? Because we shared the same laundrette, and I remember you asking...
Was it in Morrison's?
Or either that, or it was
very important stuff.
Yeah, we met
minutiae is the stuff that we hold on to.
You in the laundrette. I seem to remember bumping into you outside of Phoenix as well, and you asking if anything was going on.
Oh right, I think I remember that.
Oh, do you?
Maybe.
Between Phoenix and Nero's.
It's very precise.
I remember bumping into you and you said you were going to Australia.
It's like on the ley line. It's like a manhole cover in
Yeah, do you know the one? It was a good one.
Yeah. I often go there to pray.
That's when you had your ponytail, isn't it now?
So you had you three in Bucker, you two were in Chomsky.
And Boca.
And Bucker. This was the Venn diagram begins.
It's a weird looking Venn diagram, but yeah.
Lots of circles. So Ben, obviously you joined, when did you join Echolocation?
Was that 5 or 6 years ago, I think?
So whilst this was all happening, were you aware of the band? at
No,
any point?
I was probably at school then.
Don't be daft.
We got Ben in to bring the average age of the band down, so, which is successfully done.
I recruited Ben through doing his loft conversion plans.
Yeah.
Right,
That's
interesting.
right.
And we spoke for about an hour about music, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, I was supposed to be
That's
measuring
right,
up.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So you had no awareness of the band up until you were recruited?
No, I had heard of them, but I don't think I'd ever
You
seen
did do a
them.
crowd.
No way of seeing that.
That's right. You came round to do some measuring at my house, and we got talking about music.
I think you were playing Hair Colossus at the time, or also the album. And
that's
we'd
right.
just been to see them.
Oh, yeah.
We were going to
Yeah.
see them.
And I was playing in Vietnam Flashbacks, and then you came down to see them at the Musician, and then we sort of like I came to practice with Echolocation shortly afterwards, I think, didn't I?
5 years later.
You still waited to make it.
Yeah.
Still waiting to form an opinion, really.
We're talking about really good gigs. One that I remembered that I've been to was the Damo Suzuki gig, which was obviously quite a standout in terms of it was really different to your usual deal. Could you tell us a good story from that, if you've got any?
I didn't want to do it.
Was that the improvised?
Why
I
not?
was terrified.
So?
Making shit up in front of hundreds of people.
Oh, that Damo Suzuki
yeah.
gig.
It was
You know, when we
amazing.
supported,
Everything was-
because we did support him one time, but do you mean when we were his sound carriers?
Yes, yeah.
You see, I was alright with that.
Yeah.
If you can do anything,
It
you can
worked
do
out
anything.
well, but
Yeah,
it was
great.
scary.
The premise was obviously that he comes along to a different city and works with a local band, and they improvise around him.
Yeah, works with them is probably pushing it a bit. I think he just comes and stands in front of you, and the best bit for me was that, like, the sound check when we went to we just like, because we hadn't got anything, we just improvised, just planned it like we do, and played this thing, and then you just looked up and the guy stood in front was Damo Suzuki, and it was like,
oh, you had your moment there, didn't you?
Yeah, that was it. That was the sound check. Was the moment. Yeah.
Can you think of any other really good gigs that stand out?
So we played Glastonbury Budget, and we thought it was just going to be like a bunch of tribute bands, as it was, and we weren't very excited about it.
Hello.
Cheers, thank you.
Cheeseburger. Did you have chunky chips?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, thank you.
No worries. This is the one way of advertising the menu, by the way, so.
I didn't realise that it was so good, the food. What other gigs have we done? But anyway,
that one is a good one.
That one was a good one because some of our gigs we do projections, and during the day it was like this big white tent thing, and during the day it was you wouldn't have been able to see it because it was just so bright in there.
And it was really hot as well, wasn't it?
And it was really hot, and it was like, and it started raining. Do you remember it started raining? So we'd been stood there all day with our kit outside in the rain, and they asked the headline band wanted to go on earlier or something. They wanted to swap us with it, so we waited all day, and we thought it was going to be rubbish, and so we started playing it. It was getting dark. The projections looked amazing. We did this gig, and then suddenly the By Jovi or whoever it was on the main stage finished playing, and everybody piled in, and it was just like it was great, wasn't it?
I thought the last gig we did was good. I enjoyed that one. We played with the Verinos at
Donkey.
That was really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Nice.
I haven't done many gigs since lockdown. Since we come out of lockdown.
Does it still feel like a good, like exciting to do the
It does to me.
Yeah. Dan,
No,
what's your favourite from memory?
Well, it was a weird one, really, and I think that's why I remember it, and I'm hoping you guys can remember a bit of it. Actually, you might not remember it, because I remember you puking into a straw hat and it came out like a power shower, no matter how much you tried to hold it in. I think it was a Boca gig.
This is Boca, isn't it?
Yeah, this is Boca, and were we in Sheffield? And it was like this massive estate, and they'd knocked everything down apart from this pub, which was in this sort of like wasteland almost. And then we did a gig in that pub, and there were like people with stilts and like fluorescent lights and stuff, and yeah, we just got really hammered. And if you wanted cigarettes, you had to go into the other half of the bar where it had bleaching horrible light, and people just stared at you.
In Sheffield.
And there was a guy with ACAB on his head that they called ACAB. Yeah, and then you'd get your fags and come back into the nice bit where there was I don't know, some sort of like old school rock and roll band at us, and people on stilts.
Mule Sweat.
Fire Eaters.
Yeah,
Mule
had
Sweat.
like a load
We
of
only know
Mule
Mule
Sweat.
Sweat.
That's right. Yeah. God, Mule Sweat.
What about yours, Red?
Probably two, really.
Yeah.
One was actually here. And nobody else will remember it because it wasn't that special. It didn't seem it at the time anyway. There's the everyone's reading thing.
All right.
It was Sunday night. Because I had a stroke in 2016, lost my speech, and a lot of use of the right hand and everything. So basically I had to learn to play again, and that was my first gig back. And I wasn't sure I could do it, but I just remember being up there on that stage, and it sounded amazing to me. I was actually jumping around and everything that I'd never normally do.
No.
And then apart from that, I'd say Wide Eyed last year.
That was good, wasn't it?
Did you
Because
play the big room?
we played in a massive hall, first band on, loads of youngsters coming in, half our age and more, looking at us thinking, who are these old bastards? They're going to be terrible. We actually went down really well, didn't we?
I think there were
Spot on.
people there when you were there.
Yeah. There's been loads of good ones.
I remember the one supporting Julie's haircut, that Italian band. That was it the Musician?
Sound.
I think it was Soundhouse.
Soundhouse, yeah. Public service broadcasting
Yeah.
was.
No, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Brick Smith's band were
Yeah.
always good, weren't they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think the sound there was nice.
The best topic is the bad gigs, because I think they're the
Yeah,
funniest.
how long you got?
I was actually looking through your blog today. You were like, you haven't posted it for 10 years, by the way. You need to
I was
get
going to say,
going
have I got a book?
Great. And I don't know if it was written on that blog, because I couldn't find it when I was looking for it, but there was a post that was titled The New Nadir, and it was about a gig that you'd had.
What gig was that?
It was the one at the Ramada Hotel. Yeah.
Oh, that was terrible.
I spoke to the organiser and he says, "Oh, it's all right, we've got you on at the Ramada at this place." And I said, "You do know what kind of band we are?" And he got really shirty with me about, "Of course I know what kind of band you are," and blah blah. And so I thought, "Oh, right, okay, so it's not just us going to be playing in the Ramada Lounge. It was us just playing in the Ramada Lounge." Turned up. There was people coming in got
checking in.
Eastern European
Yeah.
couple arguing the reception.
Yeah, they've wheeled their suitcases from the station and
They were-
find us in the foyer.
Phil Collins being piped through the speakers.
The PA was just like 2 speakers on a stick kind of thing. And somebody complained, didn't they? They were complaining about, because obviously they come for their wedding night or something like that. There's us playing, and it's people going,
Did
singing
you
the
sing your
shot.
lyrics? Everybody thinks you're a fucking genius. Every cunt psychoanalyzing while people are. I'm pretty sure you did sing those lyrics.
When will this be stopping? Because I'm staying here tonight.
I think it's especially grim when you're in those kinds of situations, those gig situations, that you immediately sense bad vibes. Like, nobody wants me to be here. I don't want to be here. This is deeply uncomfortable. I know that everyone's going to hate what I'm about to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like, how much can you even... Do you even bother self-censoring at that point, or do you just go on with what you've planned to do? You've got too much.
There's definitely a point
through, really, isn't it?
There's definitely a point where you think, well, it can't get any worse, so why worry?
Why, yeah.
Just do what you came to do.
You shouldn't modify what you're doing for the sake of the audience, though, should you? That's lots of tribute bands and wedding bands and function bands.
Do you not think? Do you fully believe in, like, this is what we have, we're going in with exactly this? Because you've got so many years worth of discography now. How many years? Since 2008 at least onwards. So I guess you've got a lot to pull from. Like, it doesn't have to be.
We don't really play the old songs.
No,
do we?
Play the new ones.
We
write some of the new
We
ones.
only play.
If it was up to me, we'd only play what we played at the last practice, which we'd made up at the last practice.
Yeah.
COVID's been a bit weird, really. It has stuttered the way that we do things, because we are normally, over the years, been quite evolutionary. Do you know what I mean? We're sort of like adds on to the adds on kind of thing. But then you get to a point where, so we recorded just before COVID, didn't we? And then played about 4 gigs through COVID.
I think we did 2, didn't we, during lockdown?
2 during lockdown, 2 this year, 2 last year, probably done about 2 this year. Whereas we were doing at least 1 a month before, and so we were on a constant moving forward kind of thing. I think now we're just sort of like treading water kind of.
But we have sort of wrote some new ones, haven't we?
Yeah.
In the
You've been
meantime.
recording, haven't you?
Yeah.
But when we do write new ones, we write them like proper bands do, and sort of work them out and play them to death, which we never used to do. We just we'd play it, we'd make it up at practice, and we'd be playing it at the next gig.
Yeah. Which could have been like a week or 2 away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we're a bit less.
Yeah, we tend to have to play stuff we remember and know for the next gig, because not real time to do the new one.
Yeah.
I think we've got some.
It is fairly up to date though, still, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, no.
Do you
Real.
never feel tempted to go back and revisit old stuff, or you
I'd like to, but you've got to have the time to relearn it again.
Yeah.
I think it's the old stuff. If we were playing it, we'd have to relearn it. So we might as well learn something new. You know what I mean?
Right,
So-
I see. Okay.
And it's different as well, because those songs would have been written with different members and things like that. So it's not the same. Well, we used to play the shot off up till quite recently.
And that's from first album.
When we first wrote that with Pete and everybody, we must have played that every single gig for about I don't know, several years.
You're our greatest hits.
This is a fact for you. Our biggest hit on the internet is a song called Stevie Nicks.
Okay. I wonder why. I'd be interested to talk a bit about your writing process, because from what I'm familiar with you all and how you work generally. But I think it'd be interesting to see how a song starts right at the beginning to when it gets played on stage, and what processes it goes through from being in the rehearsal room to getting up on stage. And also, Pete, I'd be really interested to hear how you write specifically.
Yeah. Well, I try to do it differently now, because I'm trying to, I don't want to repeat myself, so try and use different techniques, as a way of trying to do something new.
Tends to come from jams. As far as I can tell, it tends to come from jams. We literally just mess about.
It's the
and
bits
then
between songs, isn't it? Sometimes.
Yeah,
That's
it
where the
always
music
seems to
comes from.
happen when we should be doing something else,
Yeah.
like rehearsing for a gig,
Or waiting
and
for-
someone will make some interesting sound or beat or thing, and then you catch on to that, and before you know it, you're writing a song, and you're usually the first one to say, we have got a gig next time we get back together, so should we do the set list? But then the rest of us have kind of gone off on some tangent. That's what it is. It's some tangent.
It's like a fiddling.
Yeah.
It's
Well, there
like
we go,
in
things
between.
that sound good,
Yeah.
and then things, right, we'll do that 4 times,
Yeah.
Yeah.
make up another bit.
Yeah. And so you're all in the room waiting, half of you are waiting to start the next song for the set list,
Yeah.
half of you have joined in, everyone decides, let's just join in, let's get it over
and
with.
Pete's usually got something written down, and
Right.
he just starts singing that.
Nice. So do you have like a notebook that you write ideas in all the time that you add to? Or
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, well, I started doing it on my phone.
So do you kind of like log those ideas down, and then when you get in and they're all pissing about, then you can...
Yeah, I normally, sometimes it's completely finished, the poem's completely before I go in, and then, like I said, I try to do different, sometimes you just got to tap them,
Yeah.
or I have to rewrite it, or...
Yeah, and then you try and fit it in with what we do, and vice versa, don't we? Harvey sometimes comes along with like one almost fully formed.
Yeah, but even when it's fully formed, it's never...
It always changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I could come in and go, right lads, here's this brilliant song that I've written that I've spent 3 weeks honing down, and then as soon as everybody starts, it's a completely different song.
Yeah.
But that's okay, that's what it is.
But you-
I think early on we decided that anything we do with the band is, all songs are written by the band, they're not written by individuals.
Yeah.
And if you want your song, if you come in with a fully fledged song, and we do it that way, then you've got to sort of give it over to the band, if you know what I mean. Which
You're going to lose all your royalties.
which is really where we varied from previous bands, where the singer maybe sort of got wanted ownership over it, and that just causes division, doesn't it? Yeah. And who needs that,
Yeah, no, it's not meant to sound like that.
We do have them arguments, though, don't we, about...
But it's not supposed to sound like that. Yeah, not many though.
I think it's important that you fall out sometimes, You've got to say what you think, haven't you?
And I think in a way we've lasted so long because there isn't one person saying it's got to be this way. There isn't anybody that says absolutely it has to be this way. It can be our way, whatever the collective is.
Yeah.
But I personally don't generally dislike anything we do.
Do you know what? I was walking past a house once and one of our songs was playing from it. It was near the Western pub and I was going home and I heard Leap of Faith coming out of somebody's window and I literally stood in the window and waited for the song to end because it was just so odd.
Yeah.
It was
very strange.
It was outside of
my
the
most
normal
rock and roll
bubble.
moment as well.
Yeah?
Do you remember we played that radio show in Leek?
In
Yeah.
Leek?
Yeah. In
Yeah, Moreland's Radio.
Moreland's Radio. You must remember because we were crammed into a studio with a drum kit and like,
Oh God, yeah.
Playing live.
and as we drove
Yeah, I
into Leek,
remember.
down the hill into Leek, we put the local radio on because it was their radio show, and they were playing our music as we drove into Leek.
Yeah,
So,
I do remember that.
That was pure rock and roll.
Let's talk about influence, because we had a conversation, because I bumped into you the day that I
Mhm.
booked you for the interview, about Fela being drum influence.
Tony
Yeah.
Allen, the drummer from Fela
Yes.
Kuti, I
Yeah,
listen
yeah.
to him a lot. I would love to say that I play like him, and Fela Kuti plays songs that are like half an hour long, 40 minutes long. It's a different thing to what we play totally. He has intros of like 20 minutes, and I've actually listened to a whole song while I walk to work, which is half an hour long, and then listen to the rest of the song on the way back. And yeah, I really, really, really love his style. Although to be honest, I try to play a bit like that, but I don't really play like that.
Do you think that the influence is evident in how you play, or is it just
Sort
something you really
of.
admire?
I think it pushes you in a certain direction, I've always kind of tried to push myself to be experimental. And in this band, it's really good because you don't actually have to ask for permission to try something new. You just try it, and if people roll with it in whatever way, then that's it. That's fine. So when I thought to myself, oh, I want to play a bit more jazzy or a bit more Afrobeat or a bit more whatever I like. You just do it, and then, well, there's no discussion because people just do whatever they want all
Yeah.
the time, and so it kind of works like that.
Yeah,
It works like that by being undirected. It's
Yeah.
just if it sounds good, it is.
yeah,
That's
because
it.
of the jamming to make songs.
Yeah,
like-
which is the only way we know how to do anything. We can't actually talk about our music. We can't actually communicate with it because we don't have the vocabulary or the education. And when we talk about how many times we play something before we change to the next bit, I'm always saying 4 times. You're always saying 2 times because we count at different paces. So we have to talk in doubles and halves. Like if we want to do a bit longer, it's like, okay, double that bit. Because if I say 8 times instead of 4, you'll go on for twice as long
Let's
as
just
me.
do it a few times till they get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how about you two? Because you two are in a pretty experimental ambient. Is that a
Yes,
reasonable
ambience. Is it ambient?
description?
Ambient sort of implies that it's sort of like wishy-washy and I don't know. If you,
There's electronic-based sort of music, I suppose, isn't it?
really something else, and we've sort of gone on a journey with that as well, haven't we? Because that was sort of like a file swapping thing through lockdown. Some of those things were like quite rocky at the beginning, and then turned into more sort of synth-based. In fact, it's almost predominantly synth-based now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you find that having that separate project, you sort of designate specific instruments to it and go, oh, you're like kind of getting that sound out of the way with that, or do you? How does it work in relation to echolocation?
It's just another way of making noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I quite like that sort of like a lot of sort of electronic stuff and a lot of early sort of stuff like Tangerine Dream and stuff like that as well. But it's all quite simple, and the stuff that I do with echolocation, I'm not a very good keyboard player. I'm not sort of technical in any way, but I like the simpleness of it, and I think the influence from that feeds through.
So it's technique rather than.
I think one thing that I suppose it's because we're old, but it's all in there. So, I don't know, the first music I was listening to was like 50s rock and roll and things like that when I was a kid, to, I don't know, Captain Beefheart, to Krautrock, to King Crimson, to I don't know, punk, Talking Heads, Joy Division, all of that. I don't think any of us are going, right, let's play a Joy Division song, or let's play it like that, or but we all have the same frames of reference, because we all know that all of that stuff is like just there. It's in the ether of what we do. And so when you play something and it sounds like somebody, you can say, oh, this sounds a bit like them, and they'll change it if it's too much like it, or somebody will go, no, it's all right, keep it. So we never try to sound like somebody else, but we all know it's not unwritten. We can say it without.
You could pick something that you recognise from anything, couldn't you?
It's never created in a vacuum, is it? Like there's always going to be some kind of influence from something, because you know, like notes have been played before, and sequences of notes have been played before. It's inevitable.
I was having a conversation the other night, and somebody was going on about the Cure, who were one of my favourite bands in the early 80s. But by 1986 and 87, I was listening to hip hop and acid house and things like that, because I was at that age when it was happening. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's in there as well. It doesn't sound like it when you listen to our music, but all of that stuff's there. Electronic music. Do you remember Mantronics?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
All of that.
Pete, how about you? In terms of influence, is it music for you? Is it something else? I find that writing typically has pretty broad influence, rather more so than a musical instrument.
Yeah, well, I used to take a lot of things. You know, the comment section from YouTube videos. I think they're really creative. Some of them. I mean, and it did occur to me that some of them are probably trolls, you know, but I still think that, you know, they're quite creative.
It's interesting to pick from social media and, I mean, kind of other people's conversations.
Yeah. No, I think they're like some of what I'm talking about. They're like works of art on their own. Yeah.
I was going through your songs, and there was a song called Post Truths.
Yeah.
For that song specifically, maybe, if you remember, because I know you all said that you don't.
I do remember.
But how would something like that come about?
I know where that one comes from. It comes from, there was a video where, just before Trump got elected. There was a video that was floated, and it was Michael Moore talking about Donald Trump, and it was everything that he said, and he did actually say. But it was twisted and, you know, was presented in a certain way as if he was supporting Trump. So it's from that.
And then how about the music for that song? How did that come about? What came first? Lyrics, music? That
was a riff. For about the last 3 albums, I've tuned my guitar differently, and that came from one of those. And I've rehashed that same thing about 3 or 4 times. It's like it's in Gloveless, but that rocks, that one, doesn't it? It's like. I think that was one of the first ones you were on, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
4 or 5 year old.
Yeah. But yeah, from that moment that I changed my guitar to that tuning, I've not used anything else. It's just been that.
Right. So you're talking about rehearsal spaces and where you've been making music over the years, because I've visited a few of them, and I have memories of being a kid in some pretty weird spaces generally, and old art spaces, but also there was like one that I feel like had cars in it, and one was freezing cold in the middle of St George's Rioto Park.
27A was the first one.
Oh God, yeah.
Well, if you're going all the way back to Chomsky, but
what was
27A, yeah.
Beaver Streets, was Space.
That's where we first did the Shut Off, actually, which is like the oldest song that we did for
and
quite a while.
What was the space? Because I vaguely remember.
Well, you used to work there, didn't you?
Yeah, it's an art space. I was artist in residence there. I had a room, and they had like a little stage, didn't they? We never used the stage, but they had a little stage, and it was a place for people with learning disabilities to go and do art projects and things like that. And we used to just jam there at night.
Then that short we went to the other new 27A.
Well, to be honest, with Booker, we were here first, weren't we?
Yeah.
Here being
Yeah.
on-site of Firebug.
On-site, pre-Firebug. So it was called Lamplighters at the time, I believe. And we used to practice.
And the stage was at this end.
Guy just used to lock us in.
Then it went to that end and then it come back to this end.
So you practice on the stage?
Yeah.
Ages ago.
Did we actually practice on the stage?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did.
That's where the drums were, and there was just no point in moving them.
All round.
So we played on the stage
It was our
to an
playground.
empty room.
The
The
27A
new
roof?
27A was
Yeah.
the car showroom.
Well, 27A closed down, or they had to move venues. They turned it into flats or whatever, and so they moved to a car showroom next to Stay Free, where Stay.
Yes.
Of course, Chomsky used to practice in the old Stay Free, which is near the train station.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah.
So we were there for a bit.
Remember that night we hired the place for 24 hours and went out on the
I
lash?
think it was just overnight. I don't think it was 24 hours.
Oh yeah, it was overnight. But it was all
We weren't
night.
that dedicated, no.
But then we did go out drinking
It
at
was-
the Tube Bar and then go there afterwards.
It was.
And we had the
practice.
and just jammed until the morning. I remember we brought the toaster and some
With
pita
dancing
bread
girls.
and hummus.
We had
Yeah,
dancing
we had
girls.
who were them 3 dancing girls? Because we were rehearsing for
Abbey Park.
yeah.
Abbey Park Festival.
Yeah,
Well, the car showroom bit was entertaining though, wasn't it? 'Cause
yeah. front
me and
row.
Harvey used to do a bottle of wine each every practice.
Yeah, I didn't. I was driving. I used to watch you not get arseholed.
Slightly stoned as well at the end,
All
and
that
then
crap you used to say, and I had to drive home all sober.
walked by the canal that we never fell in. Other than that.
you really should have.
How we never fell in, I don't know.
Yeah. Monday night, Wednesday, we did just finished at 1 o'clock in the morning. Walked back.
Yeah,
Pissed.
Very
Yeah.
well.
Dedication.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Can you
yeah.
imagine
And
doing that now?
then when I got
And
home,
every song we finished that night was the best one we'd ever written
yeah,
after a bottle of wine.
yeah. And then when I'd get home at like 1:30, Lorna would say, "What? Why did it take so long?" And I just couldn't answer. I was like, "Why did it? I mean, what did we actually? I mean, it was fun.
Car showroom. Was it literally in a car showroom?
It was in a
Yeah.
former car showroom,
Yeah.
but
So
it
it's
still
empty
looked
cars,
like
but
it."
There's a
Yeah.
video filmed in it. Put up a shot.
Yeah.
Nice.
You sit around all day, imagining that your illness is autistic. Photo or swirl, poetic, pathetic. Moon in June. Your accusations are just desperation.
Do you remember when we were recording in there and a traffic warden came to ask me something, but I was in the middle of a take and I carried on playing drums and she just stood over me, waiting. Didn't know why I wouldn't stop. In the end, I did stop. I remember that. I remember her just staring at me, thinking, "This isn't how I play drums." Just stood there like that. I want to ask you something. And I played away.
Was the
being
traffic
recorded.
warden related or just a general inquiry? How did she get in?
Well, she just walked in through the open door. We didn't think to lock it, and she wanted to know if somebody's car was parked outside or not. And I was just like, oh, no. And then she went off. After a little chat, maybe she wanted a chat.
After then came the freezing cold, because when I was looking through your blog post, I found some references to like recording in freezer. What was it called?
Well, that's everywhere we went.
I suppose.
I think that's why we
That
make
was,
such happy music.
Was that Great Central Art
Yeah.
Studios
Yeah.
behind?
So you hired it, didn't you?
Yeah, that was a mate of mine's studio space, and he hired out little bits of it to artists, and I hired a bit, and then we started jamming there, basically. and it was the start of. He had a little dark room there, and I wanted to use the dark room, and it was the start of Leicester Lo-Fi actually, which is a whole other thing. But yeah, we used to jam there.
You might as well have been outside.
It was not
January.
warm. It was not warm. To be fair, I mean, I was all right. I would be like this in my t-shirt. You'd be there in your coat with your little fingers sticking out your sleeve, going like that to play bass.
Yeah.
But I was all right.
I've still got some pictures that you took from
Yes,
there.
I mean, I remember what came after then. Was that still ill?
Yeah, it must have been. I think the important thing is wherever we've played, the atmosphere of the place is dictated
Yeah.
sort of what the music sounds like.
Do you think it's important, like where you play in relation to what you write and what you make?
Yeah, I mean, I love Stay Free as a concept, as a place, and it's really good. But I do feel like it's not ours. I feel like we go to different rooms. It's different every time. There's no sort of continuity there. Whereas all those other places were ours.
Yeah.
So that is a big difference. Fair play to them. I think, they provide a good space for bands.
You're artists, really, like everyone here has, in terms of also being a musician, but on top of that, you're also a lot of you engaged in like creative pursuits and work outside of music. So do you find that, especially if you're in visual arts, do you find that the space you work in is really important to the music and to being able to make music, or could you make it anywhere?
For me, since we've been together for so long, I definitely think we bring our bubble with us, so we could go almost
depends
to
on Dan, to be
anywhere.
honest. It's where the drums go.
Me.
Well, it depends on the drums,
I
doesn't
don't
it?
think you'd say that.
Well, the place that we do is always got to depend on drums, because just having that space to be loud and
Yeah, that's true.
so that really dictates as a band where we play what we do. But like all of us do other things and we can do them anywhere. Ben and I sort of stuck in rooms, darkened rooms, and they're not dark, they've got windows.
Not really.
We need to go and rent somewhere sunny for a week, don't we? Abroad.
Yeah.
What, to just...
That's always been
Just to
fun,
see if
isn't
it affects what we do and all sorts of
Right.
some miserable and
Brighten
grim.
up a bit, yeah, see if you take
Calypso
someone with us
music
then. Go surfing.
Mate,
See if we sound like the Beach Boys after. Actually, they couldn't surf. And maybe we will sound like them, because we won't be able to either.
That's the next direction.
Beach Boys can't surf.
I think I'm out of questions, to be honest, because I think that's mostly what I wanted to discuss.
I can't
I
imagine
wanted to
anybody
listen to it. I came here to find out what you lot said, because we don't do this. We don't sit and talk
Yeah,
together.
that's
That's
the
what we
thing.
do.
We don't talk.
Yeah.
This time is the
just
only
decide to do
time
it.
we've talked about stuff like what a song means or what a process to make a song is, and I was absolutely intrigued as to what everybody was going to say, because I don't know. I don't know what you think.
We just turn up and practice normally.
Yeah.
In dead silence,
Yeah, and
don't
then
ever say anything. to
Well,
each
dead
other.
silence. No, not dead silence. There's always somebody making some noise, and that's why you can't talk. Because if I'm not clattering on the drums, you're like playing guitar or you've got your keyboard.
I feel like we're a unique band, because I don't think it would be the same without any of us in it. Echolocation wouldn't be Echolocation without Dan or Andy doing what they do. And obviously Pete's vocals are just so idiosyncratic that there's nobody else out there doing it. Often gets accused of sounding like The Fall and things, but it doesn't at all. It's not like The Fall. I can't think of a single, maybe the occasional sort of pop record or something that we make, but I think it's a sum of its parts.
The only talking around it is, in practice and stuff, is like defining the structure, isn't it? The sound is already there. It's the timings and that, and it's how refining that. And that's all we talk about, really, isn't it?
It is, although oddly enough, there's been loads and loads of times where I haven't actually remembered the drum beat from the song that we did once last week. But what I tried to do in that scenario is remember the feeling. Remember
You've
the
got
feeling
all
of
the
it.
phrases for all the
Oh
different songs.
yeah, I've
haven't
got
you?
little code words for songs. Yeah, which might be a lyric or a weird keyboard bit or something like that. But yeah, I always think if I can't remember the drum beat, just remember the feeling.
Well, technology helps us, doesn't it?
We have started
our phones
recording
now.
things on our phones.
Otherwise, we remember
Stuff like,
nothing.
Yeah, which has kind of been interesting because then I mean, there's songs that I don't remember playing on my phone. And do you know what? I was meaning to go through the archive. It goes.
It's really
back a long
strange from the
time.
early days because these are technophobes. This lot, completely.
A bit.
Yeah, I think you've grown into it a little bit, but I mean, like from the early days, I was the only one that ever recorded it, and I recorded them. Used to like religiously record jams and that, and nobody had listened back to them ever. So it was just like, why am I doing this? I was just like amassing this huge archive of stuff that never got listened to by anybody ever. And now what we do, we all record it, all on our phones, and so all anybody does is listen to their version of it. Which is a William Burroughs kind of thing, isn't it? It's like,
a bit, yeah. It's like taking loads of photos, isn't it? Sometimes you never even sort of like bother looking at them again.
Well, thank you for coming in and eating Firebug food. Could you please give a short review of the food?
Yeah, it was nice. It was
Yeah.
absolutely excellent.
It was lovely. I like it.
Not just saying that, it was.
I think there should be more.
Yeah.
well, we've got an album coming out. It's called Forget Everything, and I don't know when it's going to come out, but it's very soon. I think it's got what was supposed to be the final mix, but I think there's some things that need changing, so they need changing, and then that'll be the final mix.
And where can people find that?
They can't.
They can't, well, inevitably, at one point.
Well, I think we'll just. Was it Mersbo? We'll make one record and we'll encase it in a gold Rolls Royce.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Put it in the
Buy
CD
Rolls
player.
Royce.
Yeah, we've got.
Costs like 10 million.
So you can listen to it, but you've got to buy the Rolls Royce.
Right.
We are hoping to do some vinyl.
Yeah, I'd love
Whether
to
it's
do
the
some
greatest
vinyl.
hits or the new one or something.
Yeah, I don't know if putting it in a Rolls Royce is.
I think it's our best
closer
album.
to-
Without a doubt, it's our best album.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I think these ones have been. I love playing all these live.
Very good. Right, exciting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Thanks. Cheers for that.